thumbs up that you can hear me. Awesome. Okay. So you'll see that Sam just turned the recording on. So, folks do know that this is being recorded. So anyways, thank you everyone for joining the inaugural Clean Buildings First Movers webinar. I am Rebecca Price and I'm with the Maryland Energy Administration for those who have not met me. As a reminder, this is a peer learning series that we've started where we'll feature guest speakers who are going to share firsthand experiences advancing building decarbonization kind of wherever they are in their journey. So, imparting lessons learned, answering questions from building owners and managers who potentially manage similar building types, et cetera. This series is brought to you by the Maryland Clean Buildings Hub, and actually I was remiss in saying next slide, thank you, which is an initiative within the Maryland Energy Administration that empowers Maryland's building owners to make well-informed energy investments in their properties by connecting them to financial, educational, and technical assistance. Next slide. So, I just threw some jargon at you, and I like using this slide to kind of, break down what that actually means and kind of what achieving our mission sort of looks like. So I do want folks to really pay attention to bullet 1 and bullet 4 as it relates to this webinar. So one of the sort of core tenets of the hubs is learning from and teaching each other. So this series I kind of think is sort of an embodiment of that principle. I think hopefully all of us know that building decarbonization is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight, unfortunately. And we know that stakeholders across the state are chipping away at this. And right now, maybe someone hasn't solved the entire puzzle, but maybe they've got kind of a corner piece of that puzzle figured out. And I think that there's an immense value in sharing those stories. And the hub kind of wants to help find those folks and uplift them and invite stakeholders to learn from them. I'll kind of quickly go through these middle bullets. The hub wants building owners to know that Maryland agencies, technical assistance providers are here to help you, whether or not you are subject to a policy like the Building Energy Performance Standards or not. And as part of our future educational offerings, we'll be hosting events that allow stakeholders to liaise with your funders, like state agencies, technical assistance providers, and other experts in the field that can give you advice or sort of help you chart a path to building decarbonization. We also want folks to know that there is no wrong door. The state agencies, so, Maryland Energy Administration, Maryland Department of Environment, Department of Housing and Community Development, kind of to name a few, coordinate regularly. We want, Maryland's building stock to be decarbonized, and we will get you to the right place if you have a question. If you have a question about incentives or policy requirements or building codes, kind of what have you, we will direct you to the right place. So we sort of encourage folks to think of the hub as being kind of the center of that, but it is no mean like the right door. It is just a door if you need support and assistance. And finally, I do want us all to remember that we can do hard things together. Whether you are pursuing building decarbonization because you want lower energy bills, or if because you were subject to the Building Energy Performance Standards, we can do this together. Next slide. Before we get into the session, I did kind of want to take the opportunity to give a couple relevant announcements for some funding and technical assistance opportunities available today. You may be eligible to leverage one or some of them. So first, hot off the press, as of Monday morning, Maryland Energy Administration opened Electrifying Community Buildings Grant Program. So this is the second kind of iteration of that program. For this upcoming fiscal year, we've got $6.8 million to help fund what we're calling community serving buildings. So think hospitals, art and science centers, private K through 12 schools, grocery stores, senior centers, you kind of get the gist, that want to undertake electrification and or pre-electrification projects. I think my colleague, Megan, who actually happens to be the program manager for that program, just launched or dropped the link into the chat for the program webpage, which contains the full kind of funding opportunity announcement. And the webpage also does have sign-up links for a program kickoff webinar that she will be hosting September 10th, as well as sign up for several program question and answer Q&A sessions throughout the application window. Applications open until December 31st, if I remember correctly. Secondly, I did see at least one local government person here. Shout out to Ben. So if there are any other local governments on here, Maryland Energy Administration also has a whopping $64 million for energy decarbonization projects through both kind of formula block grants as well as competitive project specific grants as part of this new local government energy modernization grant program. It's kind of a mouthful, which is a sort of special program that was created to funnel this huge amount of money. So my colleague is going to drop the link to that program webpage into the chat. And then finally, I do believe a lot of folks on this call may be subject to the state building energy performance standards, aka the BEPS, and may know that the energy benchmarking deadline is coming up September 1st. That's the first kind of deadline of that policy program. I do want to let folks know that a wonderful sort of partner of ours, the Institute for Market Transformation's Building Innovation Hub, so a second hub, if you will, they are a local nonprofit, and they are holding benchmarking office hours for the next, they've been running them all summer. They'll be running them until Thursday, August 28th. So we've got 3 more weeks left, every Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. For buildings that need assistance with benchmarking. I've had many buildings email me and say how wonderful the office hours are. So I really encourage you to sign up while they are still holding them. Next slide. And just a reminder of how you can connect with the hub. We are here to support you as well as amplify your stories as you pursue building decarbonization. So you can always email us directly. You can see the email on the screen with your questions about anything related to decarb. Again, kind of remember that no wrong door principle. If we can't answer it, we've got a vast network of folks. We can direct you to the right folks. And also, I'm going to be saying this until I'm blue in the face. You can please, if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter, which is really right now the single best place to receive updates on future events such as this First Movers series, as well as funding opportunity announcements like those 2 grant programs I just mentioned, other relevant events, case studies, and more. And on that note, after you watch this webinar today, if you're feeling inspired to share your story about building decarb, please let us know, and we can schedule you for another month. So that's it for me. And now I'm going to open it up to Gina Mathias, who's the Vice President of Sustainability at Broadmead, which is a continuing care community in Baltimore County. Gina and I met at a conference back in May, and I just really appreciated her can-do attitude to approaching portfolio-wide building decarb. So she's going to have the proverbial floor for the next 20 or so minutes, and it's going to share how Broadmead is approaching building energy performance, so the BEPS compliance. Just a little bit of a housekeeping note. Gina is going to be taking questions after her presentation. We are, as you can see, in webinar mode, so you can drop your questions into a little chat. So if you look at the bottom of the right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see this button with 9 dots. If you click that, there's going to be kind of a menu, and go to the Q&A section, drop your question in, and then afterwards we can get to them. So Gina, without further ado.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Gina Mathias. I'm the Vice President of Sustainability at Broadmead. Broadmead is a nonprofit life plan community in Cockeysville, Maryland. It was founded in 1979 by the Stony Run Friends meeting. So it is a Quaker-based community. And we have 391 homes on our 94-acre campus. So it's a big retirement community, and we have independent living, we have assisted living and skilled nursing. And on our campus, we have a variety of building types, which makes it challenging when we're thinking about our building decarbonization and sustainability overall. We have single-story connected garden-style homes, which you can see on the map behind me. They're laid out across the campus in neighborhoods. So they're connected together in a single story in sort of O-shaped neighborhoods. Then we have 2 mid-rise condo-style buildings, as well as in our community center, we have assisted living, skilled nursing, as well as our wellness center, an indoor swimming pool, staff member offices, and a healthcare clinic. It hosts all of the resident associations clubs like the wood shop and pottery studio. So it is a big, challenging building when we're thinking about sustainability and decarbonization. And to top it off, our 94-acre campus is on a single meter. So for anybody on this call who doesn't know about BEPS, I thought I would just do a very brief overview that this is the law in Maryland, that buildings over 35,000 square feet, commercial and multifamily buildings, have to achieve net zero direct greenhouse gas emissions by 2040, with interim steps along the way to reduce their energy use and improve energy efficiency, and to benchmark as well. And in very simple terms, I've heard this come up talking with colleagues and other retirement communities, that they don't know what net zero means. So in really simple terms, I like to just share with, when I'm talking with people, that it basically means no gas. You're going to need to look at how your building is heated, how it's cooled, how your hot water gets hot, and how are residents in their independent living units cooking? Are they cooking on a gas stove or not? Those are the basics of what you need to look at when you're thinking about decarbonization and meeting the goals of BEPS. And again, I know that's a very simplified version, but talking with folks who are just getting started, I find that clicks for them. And I like to also talk a little bit about how we're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. And that's what this webinar series is about, is making those connections. I believe very strongly in sharing what we've learned. I don't think that what Broadmead is doing is anything that needs to be proprietary. I'm happy to share information. And I hope that when I have questions, I have a pool of colleagues across the state that I can talk to as well, because while all of our campuses are unique, we all have the same kinds of systems out there that we can learn from each other. So with our compliance timeline, we know that in September we have to benchmark, and then we have to make our first set of changes by 2030. And then we have the next set in 2035, and then by 2040 be net zero. I think Broadmead will get there ahead of that schedule. Fingers crossed, budget's willing, and the resources that are available to us and to all of you. The Clean Buildings Hub is a great resource. They have videos to walk you through benchmarking and the different aspects of BEPS and building decarbonization that I found very helpful and very useful. Montgomery County, I don't know how many of you on this webinar are in Montgomery County or have buildings in your portfolio in Montgomery County, but their BEPS law has been on the books for a number of years now, and they have a rich resource hub. And one of the things that I find most helpful with Montgomery County and the Montgomery County Green Bank is finding consultants and contractors, finding a list of professionals that have been doing benchmarking for campuses like Broadmead and other organizations that I know have the experience, finding out what rebates and incentives are available statewide since we're in Baltimore County. But I find that most of the consultants or contractors will work up into Baltimore County where Broadmead is. And so I think that's a good resource to start from if you're looking to hire help and advice and technical assistance. The same with DC, we're a little further from DC, but on their campuses, on their communities here might be a little bit closer and can take advantage of DC's Innovation Hub library. And then lastly, the Energy Star Service and Product Provider Partner Directory is another spot to look for help, especially with benchmarking. You can sort by how many communities or buildings a specific contractor has benchmarked to get an idea of their experience level, which is very helpful. So the first step I thought about when I found out Broadmead was subjected to BEPS and thinking about, oh boy, I'm the Vice President of Sustainability and this will fall to me to take this on. Of course, I have a fantastic team at Broadmead. Our Vice President of Facilities is brilliant and very supportive, but I felt this overwhelming dread of what I was going to have to do. And so I just broke it down. I think about it like in the movie The Martian and how Matt Damon's character says you just have to work the problem. And so working the problem, just break it down into steps. And step one is logging into the BEPS portal and seeing where we're at and what we have. So registering for an account was really easy. That was took all of about 2 minutes to register for an account and to start looking up Broadmead's properties. And here we are. We have our buildings listed here. That is the first guess that the state had for what would be covered on our campus. When you log in, if you haven't done this already, you'll find that there may be some errors in the building size, the building location, the building type. And so it's really important to get this step done so that you can look at where it is. And then if you need to make any corrections, you know what needs to be corrected. And you can make those corrections as you go along in Portfolio Manager. If you have a consultant helping you through this process, they'll make these corrections for you. But there is a library of forms that you can fill out to submit back to the state for corrections to any of these things, data, ownership, if your building is not at least 50% occupied, if you think you might be exempt for some reason. All these forms are right there and easy to access. So look, we're already 2 steps in working the problem. The next thing that is weighing on me is benchmarking. And how are we going to get this done? And so I broke that down into 2 pathways. The first is to do it in-house. I know enough to enter data into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. It's free. And there's free training videos that you can watch online. So that is certainly an option. And your data is accessible through your utility company. They have to make it available to you and to go into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. But it's time consuming and there's a high learning curve. So as I'm thinking about if I want to do this myself, or if you're thinking about if somebody in your organization can do the benchmarking, absolutely. But you have to have the staff time and resources to get that done. And the first time you benchmark, there's going to be a lot of data gathering and tracking down information on your building's HVAC systems, the age of equipment, what kind of equipment, your square footage, and tracking, getting all of your utility bills entered and double checking that data, that it's entered properly. So that is time consuming, and the first time doing it can be a little difficult. The other way to go is to hire a consultant, and they can do the benchmarking for your community accurately and fairly quickly. They've done this for on their communities, so they have their processes down, and they can help you also likely develop your pathways to compliance with BEPS, which is a bonus in my mind. And along the way, we know that we'll have to have third-party verification for BEPS for your benchmarking. So they would satisfy that requirement using a consultant. But the cons are it can be expensive. And if you don't have this in your budget, but you have staff time in your budget, that might be the deciding factor on if you're going to do it yourself or hire the consultant to do it. And then, of course, finding a consultant that is a good fit for your organization. But we have all of those resources that I mentioned on a previous slide to help you find a consultant that can work with you. And then it's to making your plan on how you're going to meet the requirements for the building energy performance standards. I love this picture. This is some of our own residents at Broadmead that are planting trees back in May of this year. And I think when we're talking about making a plan for something like this, it's a long-term plan. And in a retirement community, we're talking about a very big expense for a community where the residents who currently live here may not be here living at Broadmead when they see these things implemented or to see the fruits of all of this effort. But through that teamwork, we're able to get a lot done, and it is very satisfying. So our step one is to benchmark. Broadmead will use a consultant for this first year, and then work on reducing our energy use and increasing in energy efficiency. The way we plan to do that, and what I would suggest for any building owner, is to have an energy audit or an updated audit if yours is old, and look at what incentives and rebates may be available to help you with those expenses. The third step, which kind of goes at the same time as step two, it would be to catalog your combustion equipment. So again, look at how is your water getting hot? How is your space getting warm? And how are you drying things? If you're a residential building, or commercial with dryers, how are your dryers working? What's cooking equipment do you have? Not commercial kitchens, but for individual kitchens, what kind of cooking equipment? What other equipment do you have that would be subjected to the performance standards? And then you have to develop the plan for what equipment can meet the functionality, what's in our budget, and when should we plan for those replacements? Is it sooner rather than later? Which item is the oldest and already at the end of its useful life is one question that we talk about here, versus what may have the biggest impact versus waiting until 2040 to do it because it's not at the end of its useful life, and we don't want to replace it at this time. So Broadmead, a little bit of more background about Broadmead. We have a very strong Quaker value system that is supported by our board of trustees and our executive leadership and the residents who live here. That means stewardship and care for our natural resources. And there's been a strong commitment to sustainability at Broadmead for a number of years. So we are a little bit ahead of the game here because we already have a community sustainability plan, and we have a campus master plan that focuses heavily on sustainability of the green space on campus. So we have a list of ways and priorities for improving our energy efficiency and reducing energy use already. That includes finishing LED retrofits, which we were able to do this summer. And that was fantastic project, very quick payback, huge rebate still available for LEDs. I think our payback was something like 5 or 6 months. So that was, that's a quick and easy thing if that has not been completed, although I think everybody is well along the way there. All of our independent living homes have Energy Star appliances, and any that have not been refurbished with the Energy Star appliances will be refurbished. I believe within the next year we'll be complete with all of those refurbishments. So that's over 300 independent living homes that will have new Energy Star appliances. We also install low flow fixtures. And this year we've been piloting water leak detection systems. There are 2 different systems that we've been piloting. Namely, the one that I think is most impactful on energy is on our water heaters, and putting a sensor that communicates directly with our facilities team to the tablets that they carry with them to alert them if there's a water leak right away. And previously, we only knew if there's a water leak in our water heaters if somebody found it, which is they live in an outdoor attached shed in each independent living home in the garden home space. And so it could be days, maybe even weeks before leaks could be caught in a water heater. And also this will help prevent catastrophic damage to our homes and infrastructure. So we've been pleased with that aspect of going with looking at water for a way to save energy. We refurbished our green roof, which is pictured here. It needs a little weeding, but we redid that to provide visual interest for residents. But as you may know, green roofs can help insulate and save energy. And right below this green roof is a tall ceilinged dining room. So that is our main dining room for residents. So they also benefit from some sound dampening and that added insulation there. We do need to have a new energy audit completed, specifically in our community center. And I will share some details of an evaluation we had of our HVAC system in the next slides. Also on our list to improve energy efficiency and reduce energy use is adding more building automations, which our facilities team is evaluating what systems would work well for their needs on that. And a big albatross hanging out there is replacing our water-cooled walk-in refrigerator. So that's reducing use and addressing efficiencies. The other part of this is the decarbonization of our systems. So we have a 45-year-old gas-fueled water source heat pump system that heats our garden homes. This is a underground water loop. And while it is efficient for the times it was put in, it's 45 years old, so we experience leaks in the system. And one of the major vulnerabilities around this system is when we experience a leak, it doesn't just take out one unit's heating or cooling. It can be an entire neighborhood's heating or cooling. So we're talking about a dozen homes and or more neighborhoods than just one, let alone the expense of dealing with those types of leaks of an underground water loop and the vulnerability of our residents in those situations. Because of course, it never breaks on a beautiful 60-degree day. It breaks when it's below freezing and it's the coldest day of the year and it's snowing, or it's 102 degrees outside and it's really hot. So there were some existing issues about this water loop and us needing to address it. So I will talk about how we went about evaluating that. We also have boilers in the community center and chillers that will need to be replaced. But on the plus side, Broadmead already has electric dryers. All of our independent living homes have electric cooking and electric water heaters. So I do feel that Broadmead is at a small advantage in those regards, because we won't have to replace all of those smaller appliances along the way. So we had to work with, wanted to work with a consultant. So our vice president of facilities, Joyce Malone, found a consultant to evaluate our heat loop and what to do to replace our water loop. The best solution for Broadmead was found to be a VRV air source heat pump. This is a variable refrigerant volume heat pump system. It will provide each independent living home in our garden home neighborhoods, an indoor unit and an outdoor unit. They're ducted. And this system will meet 100% of its heating capacity to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the worst weather, it should operate down to -13 degrees. We know that with seniors, they're very vulnerable to extreme temperatures. And it's always been a pet peeve of mine to tell people, just turn your thermostat down to 65 and put on a sweater, or just turn that thermostat up to 78 degrees and put on a tank top, especially when we're talking to senior residents who are especially temperature vulnerable and sensitive. So we don't, that's just not an option for us here. We want people to be comfortable in their homes that they're paying to be in here. And that's very important to Broadmead. And so this option helps us meet that more than what an air source heat pump with backup resistance would do, because with that backup resistance of an traditional air source heat pump, we lose energy efficiency. With the VRV system, the evaluation shows that there would be more energy savings versus the traditional system. And so long term, while this system will cost more to deploy upfront, long term we'll have more energy savings. And it makes the most financial sense for us to go with this route. Compared to what we have now, there's a 40% energy savings, which works out to, as you can see there, the change in the energy use intensity as well. This system will require some new electrical support, but not as much as we feared. So our next steps will be to pilot test this system. We don't want to go through and put in 300 of these systems and then have residents tell us that they don't like them. This is millions and millions of dollars. It's a very large capital project that we'll have to undertake over some period of time. And we want to be certain that we have the right system, the right brand, the right contractors, all of that in place before we install this community-wide. So we'll be pilot testing these systems this year to see where we are and make sure that we have enough time to do all of the planning that we need to do to roll it out community-wide. We also will be identifying the replacements for the remaining equipment in our community center that will need to be replaced. And then our executive, we have to meet to talk about developing the budgets for each project and how to time each project. We have until 2040 to get it done. We're talking about a lot of money. So how are we going to pace each replacement project? Where in the budget, the capital budget, does this fall? And what resources or incentives or funding opportunities will be available to us that will impact those timelines to speed it up or slow us down? All of that we are still working on and figuring out right now. Some of the considerations that are on my mind is the alternative compliance pathway, what that cost is going to be versus meeting the projects. Broadmead is very committed to sustainability as a whole, and we already know that the water loop needs replacing at some point. It needs updating. And so that system is likely to be implemented. However, on their systems, I'm not sure about yet. And so those are questions that are hanging out there for me. The other big question is what future updates to BEPS are coming? What might impact our timeline? What projects we undertake? What's covered? What's not covered? All of that, we don't know, but I am operating under the assumption that things will be as they are, and we need to have this plan in place so that we are ready to meet it ahead of schedule. But there's uncertainties, of course, going on with what equipment will be available, what the price of equipment will be. Price fluctuations are happening, and there could be some wild changes coming for the equipment that we're looking at and what will be available to us as technology changes and what is coming in and out of our country. So planning for that is kind of impossible. So we just are going to do the best we can. And I'm very interested, though, in our quantifying our co-benefits. So with moving to individual VRV systems in our independent living garden homes, the co-benefit there is better resiliency. If a unit goes out, it impacts one home, not an entire neighborhood with dozens of people. So that is a benefit. What other co-benefits can we quantify, which will help with communication to our residents and their support of these large capital projects? What benefits can I communicate to my board of trustees for their support and our help with budgeting? Is that going to be monitoring indoor air and how that impacts where our equipment is housed in our boiler rooms, in our independent living homes? More comfort, more temperature stability, all of those things, quieter operation. These are all co-benefits that we're thinking about and wanting to know how we could quantify that and communicate those stories better to our residents and our board. And that is the end of my presentations, and I'm happy to take questions.
I look a little blurry. Thank you so much, Gina. That was fantastic. I'll give you a second. I don't know if you want a sip of water. That was a lot of such great information. And questions are rolling in. So hope you're cool with running out the clock.
Yes. I always worry when there's no questions.
Oh, I hope we get to all of them. Okay, so from Anonymous, someone's being shy. Gina, you described that oh boy moment learning about the BEPS requirements. I'm sure others can relate. Could you provide some insight into the process you went through to share with your team and leadership about the requirements and what to expect?
Sure. So every week, our executive leadership team meets every Wednesday. And so our vice president of facilities and myself were aware of BEPS. And it was a matter of sharing what we knew was coming ahead of time. Look, we think this is coming, and then this spring, here's what we know. Here's what's been finalized and what we have to expect. So since we already have those meetings, it was easy. And Joyce Malone shared a fact sheet that she typed up with the entire team. And then I present at least once a year to our board of trustees a small sustainability report. And so I shared in that this was coming and that we now have a goal. Broadmead did not previously have a decarbonization goal. Our goal has always just been to be as sustainable as we can. We did not have a specific goal. And so I shared that, well, now we do. Now it's 2040.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? Who from leadership was involved? I'm curious if there's like who in the different departments. Was finance involved, legal, facilities? I don't know.
Yes. So as I've mentioned, our vice president of facilities, Joyce Malone, and our chief financial officer is also involved. She holds the key to all of the budgeting. And our CEO has been directly involved. And we've had change in CEO in this past 12 months. And so both our previous CEO and our current CEO have been very supportive of sustainability as a whole for Broadmead. And so while this does require a huge outlay of capital, these are things that Broadmead would be examining at some point already because of our sustainability plan. So we also have a board policy that was created and adopted by our board of trustees regarding sustainability.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Just a reminder to folks, feel free to keep adding questions. Just a reminder, it's 9 little dots in a grid at the bottom right-hand corner. It can be kind of difficult to find, and you can click the Q&A toggle. Okay, next question. At what point, if at all, are you going to engage with residents on this? For example, are you going to host any meetings, town halls, disseminate information through flyers, etc.?
Yes, so we have communicated our sustainability program as a whole with residents. When I was developing our campus master plan, I had a work group that was comprised mostly of residents with some trustees and team members. It was a huge work group. It was 25 people, which I think is one of Broadmead's biggest work groups that it's had. And so we love to have involvement from our residents. Broadmead is a little unique for a retirement community in that way. We have a residents association that is very active. So their buy-in is paramount, especially when we're talking about big capital projects, like we're talking about construction. We worry about construction fatigue and people being really tired of noise and disruption. And so I want to involve them. So as we develop our timeline for when we will do any of these projects, we will be involving them. Just this past, once a month, we have what's called a fireside chat. And just this past week during our fireside chat, our Vice President of Facilities shared the plans for piloting the new heat pumps. And so we're already sharing some of those plans with residents, letting them know, look, we need to pilot test this. If you're interested in being a guinea pig, let us know, and we'll put you on the list of somebody who's willing to test out this new equipment for us. I have not yet had a special meeting just to talk about BEPS, but I think that I will be as we move along this process, because I think that residents will be very interested in seeing our benchmarking, and I would think that they would love to dig into that.
Fantastic. Moving right along. Feel free to take another sip of water if you need. So I know you mentioned that you're going to be looking at, financing, rebates, et cetera, for future projects. So I'm going to kind of amend this question that's been asked. Has Broadmead participated in to date any grant, rebate, or financing programs to help with sort of the stuff that you've already done? I know you mentioned the LED retrofit, et cetera.
Yeah, so the LEDs came with the rebate. The people we bought from took care of all of that for us. It was huge rebate on the LEDs, ridiculous. Or they marked up the bulbs a lot so it looked better. I don't know. Before I came to Broadmead, we had some energy auditing done, and I believe that they took advantage of the incentives for energy auditing through Empower Maryland programs. But that was 2017, 2018. So it's been some time. We have not yet had another grant or taken advantage of any other grants yet. We tried. We were updating some thermostats, but the project did not qualify for the thermostat rebate.
I'm going to add another personal question onto that. Do you have a grant staffer, or kind of who does that work? Is it you?
We do, yes. So our Vice President of Development and Communications, Eleanor Landauer, helps with grant writing.
Awesome.
So
I know it would be a time suck.
It can. So it would be a scenario where I find a grant that I think we should apply for. For example, there's some Chesapeake Bay, oh gosh, I always get it confused, Trust or Foundation. Anyway, some watershed grants that I would like to apply for, since we have such a large campus and we have some reforestation and other work to be done in our landscape. So those some grants that I would like to apply for. So I'll probably write a preliminary grant and then I can kick it over to her for polishing.
Okay. I do believe Broadmead might be considered a community serving building. So you might want to check out that.
Okay.
Funding.
I don't know. That's my question for you, is if we would qualify for that. Do you have a program where members of the public can join, but they have to pay to join? I don't know.
What do you mean by that?
Our wellness center.
Oh.
So they can join our wellness center without living here.
That's a good question. And that's a plug for my colleague Megan's kickoff webinar. You can ask all those types of questions.
Great.
Plug for everyone if you think that you are a community serving building. I know that that's kind of a vague phrase, kind of intentionally. Okay, moving right along. Someone actually in the questions referenced that grant, cbtrust.org/grants.
Thank you.
Trust. Awesome. Okay. With a 45-year-old heating system, was Broadmead already thinking about / planning for a replacement heating system? How did BEPS requirements change this process, if at all?
It's pushing us to speed it up. So when I first came to Broadmead 2.5 years ago, this was a topic of conversation, but it was, I think, slower. And now with BEPS here, it's just lighting the fire to get it done sooner.
Awesome. Okay. Have you developed initial cost estimates? Do you have a financing approach plan? So I know that's pretty general, and I feel free to answer however you like.
It's a great question. We do have some cost estimates from our consultant for the heat pump aspect of things. We don't have any cost estimates to talk about our chillers and the other boilers. It's millions of dollars, probably in the $5 million range, somewhere in there. And so right now that's what we're trying to figure out, and working with our CFO on capital budget. What fiscal year could that go into? Go in over time? Do we do 10 a year, 20 a year? Do it all at once we know what we want? That is the process we're in right now.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Hey, Sam from MDE, there is a question for you, just to switch up the speakers maybe, if you're willing to come off mute.
Sure thing. How can I help?
For MD BEPS compliance, do properties just need to be shared with MD BEPS in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, or do teams need to submit a report in the MD BEPS portal? So maybe just a kind of reminder of that process.
Great question. Thanks for asking. So for the benchmarking requirements, you need to just submit that report through Energy Star Portfolio Manager. You really don't even have to press submit or anything. You just connect your building's profile with us, that MD-BEPS account. And then on the benchmarking deadline each year, we will download the data that is available in the profile on the deadline. So just ensuring that the data that you have is accurate and represents the building, and is the calendar year energy use data for the prior year is just some quick verification you'll need to do prior to the data going into Portfolio Manager. But that's what we would download, and we do not need a report through the MD BEPS portal. If you're just benchmarking and you're not going about any exemption forms, there is a bit of information you're going to need from the portal to finalize your benchmarking, and that is the unique building identifier, or the UBID. That is our own internal tracking number for the buildings. So you'd go to the portal, get that UBID, and you would just include that in your Energy Star Portfolio Manager report. So I know that was a bit of a lengthy response, but I'm dropping in our getting started webpage that outlines step by step what you need to do based on if you're covered, if you're going to apply for exemption, or if you're not covered but listed on the portal. So I'd recommend going to that page to get the step by step instructions.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Oh, let me just toggle back to Q&A. Someone from BG&E who runs or helps run their C&I programs, Gina, is recommending you guys chat. So I can I can connect you two after. Thank you, Al, for that.
Hi.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Empower is a really great resource that we have in Maryland. Maryland, fun fact, consistently ranks as one of the top 5 states in the country for energy efficiency by a nonprofit group based in DC that kind of monitors every state. And I do believe that that's in large part because of our Empower program that we've been running. Our utilities rather have been running since 2008, I believe. So yeah, there's money. If you are, paying into BG&E, Pepco, Potomac Edison, Smeco, Delmarva, there is money on the table. Use it. Okay. Got around 5 more minutes. Is the existing water and cooking equipment electric resistance? Do you have plans to replace those with induction cooktops and heat pump water heaters?
Yeah, so in our independent living homes, it is electric resistance. So just a traditional electric stove with your traditional coil, and our water heaters are traditional electric water heaters, so not heat pump water heaters. We looked at heat pump water heaters 2 years ago in terms of space in the utility closet as well as the cost. And at that time, I believe the answer was our facilities team did not think it was worth the extra expense to go to the heat pump water heaters at that time. But I think this is always something that needs continuous looking at. Every year needs to be reevaluated as we go through our refurbishments when residents move and we're able to refurbish the units before new residents are moving in. We go through a whole refresh of the home and see what can be updated. So that's something that we'll be doing as just a continuous look at what makes sense for us.
Makes sense.
But yes to the induction. So as we do that, I will, I think that is a huge benefit is to go to induction cooking. And I am trying to, while this is not covered under BEPS, it is part of our sustainability plan is to really start pushing our dining kitchens, our dining rooms to go towards induction cooking. So as Broadmead refurbishes our kitchen, which is in the capital plan for the next so many years to redo our kitchen space, is to try to convince or tell our chefs that we'll be going to induction and getting them some training, and excited about that opportunity.
Awesome. Induction is great. My parents have one.
Faster, it's safe, it's so much safer. It's just something that I think could really benefit our team members.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, 3 more minutes. I wanted to ask another one of my own questions. Is there a resource that would be on your wish list? Something that could be provided to you by the state?
Other than lots of money, because I think that is the biggest challenge for everyone is finding the money to do these projects. The technical assistance is a big one too, and figuring out, look, we have this system, it's a little complicated, and there's not a straightforward plug and play solution. Right. And I think that is the technical assistance is huge. So if we don't have to pay a consultant thousands of dollars to come out and tell us what we need to put in, what our options are, that would be really helpful too.
That's a good kind of segue to kind of a thank you and a plug. I don't know if many folks on this call saw, but as part of the Clean Buildings Hub offerings, we are going to be launching a BEPS technical assistance program next year in 2026 to do just that. So the last kind of 6 weeks, we had a request for information open, where we just asked kind of a few questions, wanted to hear from building owners as well as consultants, vendors, kind of what level of technical assistance is desired, kind of which buildings might need help first. So we're really excited to kind of pilot that program or launch maybe a slimmer version of it in 2026, and then hopefully in successive years to come. So if you have questions about that, again, that building.decarbonization@maryland.gov email, and we can jump on the phone and talk about our vision for it and kind of take some ad hoc casual feedback. Okay, 1 minute on the clock. Unfortunately, I wasn't able, there was a lot of questions and I was trying to ask kind of the most.
I'm happy to have anyone reach out after the webinar. One of the things I'm missing in going from local government work to working in the senior living space is there's not as strong of a community of sustainability practitioners. So I would welcome the opportunity to collaborate and to share and work together, answer questions, share what we've done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think we're going to go out and close out. I'm sorry to those whose questions we couldn't get to. Again, just ending on some housekeeping. This was recorded, so I'll send a package of goodies to attendees that'll include a recording. Hopefully you're okay with that, Gina. I thought you did great, so I don't think there's any fear of what's out there. What else will we include? PowerPoint, as well as kind of a list of those links we dropped in the chat. Please, folks, if you have a story, let me know, and maybe we can feature you in months to come. So thank you so much, Gina, and thanks everyone else for being such an engaged audience.
Yeah, thank you.